Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I'm just going to give a moment here for everyone to join us, and then we will dive into today's awesome back to school webinar. It's good to see you all. Hope you're all doing well. It's a sunny but kind of chilly Tuesday here in San Francisco. Hope you all are enjoying some nice weather wherever you are. Right. Just letting everyone trickle in here before we get started. But I'm very excited for today's webinar. I hope it's going to be a really interactive experience, and I definitely want it to be guided by your feedback and questions and insights. So make sure you have a device on hand that you can use to respond to today's activities, and hopefully it'll be a good time. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started, but I will keep welcoming you all as you come in. All right, so this is Back to School with Pull Everywhere, and I am Abby. I'm the product marketing manager here at Pull Everywhere, and I love working with customers on making sure that their presentations are the most engaging they can be, and whether that's with students and whether that's in person or not. Pull Everywhere is really kind of the glue that helps start those conversations and keep them going. So a little bit about, there we go. Before we get into it, I wanted to get to know you all a little bit. And just a heads up, today's session will be recorded and I will be stopping for questions throughout. So keep dropping them into the Zoom Q&A box as well as to these activities. So I actually wanted to present an activity before we go into the agenda. And I'm just curious to know how you will be using Pull Everywhere within your university, what that will look like in the classroom. I'm super interested to hear what your learning models are looking like and what your priorities are. I think no matter how your classroom is set up, it's really important not to lose sight of that student and faculty engagement. So Pull Everywhere is designed for that. And as we can see, something like an icebreaker can bridge that gap. We have fully, I'm not sure if that's referring to online or in person. We have both. But if you wanted to combine fully with another word, feel free to use a dash or an underscore. We have quizzes and assessments. We have hybrid, HyFlex. Awesome. So I will be covering ways that you can use Pull Everywhere in all of those settings. Check for understanding, engagement, reviews. Yeah, that's a good one. Quizzes, totally. HyFlex is really popular today, and that's good to know. We are definitely designed to be flexible and to give students the opportunity to contribute wherever they choose to learn from. So I'll be going over some examples and maybe some inspirational ideas that you can use in your own work. We have hotspot questions. We have Canvas. Yeah, I will be talking about LMS integrations today. We have low stakes, definitely. There's a variety of ways you can use Pull Everywhere. It doesn't have to be a graded assessment. It can also be a low stakes, fun activity just to get to know your students or whoever is in the audience. Let's see, in person. Okay, so we have definitely a mix here between virtual or some elements of virtual and in person. We have integrated, we have PowerPoint. Yep, I will be showing PowerPoint today. Awesome, these conversation starter. I love that. There's so many ways to kind of leverage that. So we'll check out some as we go along. Let's see, anything else that I missed? So it looks like our top answers here are HyFlex, responses, engagement, and quiz. So definitely we'll be covering those today. And if you have any ideas as well, if you have been using Poll Everywhere for a while and have some best practices or tips to share, feel free to drop those in the chat with us. My teammate Linny is here helping answer all of your questions, and I will be reading them as well. So let us know how you are planning to really take advantage of student engagement this year. All right, so thank you so much for your answers, everyone. This is a really great start to the webinar. I'm glad we're all kind of on the same page here. I wanted to quickly go over the agenda before we dive in. So again, just for anyone who joined us later, this session will be recorded and there will be plenty of opportunities to ask questions. So just keep sending them in, and this will definitely be a kind of back and forth experience. So our agenda for today, I wanted to cover some tools and recommendations to set up a successful classroom. And as we saw, we have a variety of classroom settings this year. It's not all uniform. I think even last year we were kind of all doing the same thing, but this time it's up to the individual university and the teachers and the students. So there's a lot more flexibility that has to be involved. And I definitely want to share some tools that can help you create a consistent experience no matter what that looks like. Next, I will go over some activity ideas. So presenting some of the ones that you want to see and then putting those in PowerPoint as well if you're interested in the integration. And then we'll talk about registering students. As I mentioned, we do have LMS integrations and imports that you can use to bring your students into your Poll Everywhere activities, and make sure if you are assigning any credit or participation scores that they are credited for those. And then I'll talk about some classroom apps and tools that you can use and go over some new features that have either just been released or are coming up soon. And then before we wrap everything up, I will also share some follow-up resources that you can use as well. All right, so this is our virtual classroom checklist. And by virtual, I just mean any form of virtual learning, whether that's fully remote or all the way to HyFlex, even in person. I think there's a lot of elements of virtual learning now in the actual physical classroom as well. So I think this can be useful for any type of learning. And so the first thing I'd like to kind of share is that Poll Everywhere works with your video conferencing software. It works wherever you work. So no matter which one that is, all you need to do is share your screen, go into full screen mode and start collecting responses to your activities. So a key part of that, I think, is just to set everything up and test as much as possible before class starts. And especially with those different kind of avenues, it's important to test everyone. So what does the engagement look like if you're joining remotely? What does it look like if you're in person? Kind of being on both ends of the experience can really help you understand what students are seeing or what your audience is seeing. And then I definitely recommend establishing some kind of common ground in terms of etiquette. Just what is the best way to interact? When should students or participants enter their responses? What does the follow-up look like if there's a response that wasn't addressed during the session? When can they expect a response? So just thinking through the different ways that engagement can play into your presentation. Sorry about the noise if you can hear that. So yeah, thinking about all the different ways that responses can come in and that students can be using their devices, and working through those and trying to establish some kind of community and just guidelines for everyone. And then once you've kind of handled the technical side of things, you've introduced Poll Everywhere to your audience, then I think it's really important to incorporate your activities in a thoughtful way. So making room for engagement just means pausing at key moments, or even just as early as the first few minutes of class, to get to know everyone, to make it more than just the content, and to really encourage critical thinking. And then we have a bunch of different ways to collect questions as well. So you can either add a pinned Q&A activity to have that on during class throughout the session. You can send one before or after class to gather any questions that either come up before, kind of in advance, you can plan your content, or even afterward as feedback, or just seeing what landed after the session. And I will be showing you how to use Poll Everywhere asynchronously as well. And with that, you can also share resources after class and kind of turn your activities into study guides so that students are not only learning and engaging during the session, but also for much longer afterward. So one more question before we head over into our account. And I'm just curious to see which of these activities would you like to see created live today? So I will be doing a live demo, and I want to make sure that the activities I show are relevant to all of you. So I will be doing the top 3 from this list. And I just want to see where you all are at, what you would like to see created. All right, so it looks like competition's definitely in the lead, and that's great to see. Competitions are a really fun activity type that you can use in a completely low stakes icebreaker format, or as a assessment as well, and to kind of build friendly competition among the crowd. Clickable image, I'm glad to see that now taking first place. That one is one of my all-time favorites just because of how creative you can get with it. So I definitely have a good one planned, I think. Hopefully you all will enjoy that one. And multiple choice. Nice. Okay, I think those will be our 3 unless something drastic changes right now. Oh, now we have a tie for 3rd. If we have time, I might just do 4, but let's see if one of them wins. Oh, all right. Well, it looks like multiple choice and Q&A are neck and neck. But I will try to create all 4 of them. If not, we'll just go with multiple choice. And I see the question in the chat. This is currently a multiple choice question. A survey is a collection of questions. So I'll show you what that looks like. But if you just see a standalone activity like this, that means it's not within a survey. All right, let's head into our account, and I will get started showing you what all of these look like. So this is Poll Everywhere. I'm sure you've probably all logged in before, but here's where you're going to be organizing before the semester starts. And I think recently you might have all seen that we released folders and a new navigation. So hopefully you can kind of combine all of your activities and find them in a very streamlined way. So for example, to find today's webinar, I'll go to the webinar folder, drill down into the August webinars, and there it is. And you can definitely do this for your own classroom. So you can start off with the school year. Within that, you can have the term. And then within the term, you can have your different classes. And within all of those, you can have your sections and each week's lecture. So you can really drill down as far as you'd like with these. You can have up to 20 of these levels. So definitely make this your own, customize it, and that way you can find them a lot easier and just know where everything is based on your preferred way to organize. So within my webinar folder for today, I will start off by creating some activities with all of you and showing you how those work. So let's just start with a simple multiple choice question, just like we had right now. I can show you how to set that up. So a multiple choice is pretty straightforward. You have your question title or prompt, and then you have your response options. So you can definitely use multiple choices in assessment. I think that's a very clear translation of this activity, but don't always have to have a correct answer, as we saw. So again, I like personally to use multiple choice just to get to know you all a bit better so that I can tailor whatever I'm talking about to your interests. And for that, I'd like to know how you describe your role in Pull Everywhere. So there's so many ways that you can use the tool and kind of the roles that you can take on within it. So I'm curious if you are actually the one who is creating and presenting your own activities. Maybe you're creating activities for other presenters. So you are planning and organizing all of the content, but someone else is actually presenting it. Maybe you're managing team membership. So you're inviting new presenters to the account, making sure they're in the right teams, or maybe you're just overseeing the account as a whole. So I would like to know this, and this would really help me showcase the tools that are most useful to you based on how you use Pull Everywhere. And if I did have a correct answer here, I can always click on the check mark next to any of them, and that will set that answer as correct. So for now, I'm just going to add another activity. If I clicked create, I could present it right away, but I do want to create 3 today. So let's move on to the next one. Definitely clickable image was up there in the top 3. And for a clickable image, you can use this at any point during class. You can start off with an icebreaker like a mood scale and just have students let you know how they're feeling that day or where they're joining from if you're in a HyFlex or hybrid or remote setting. You can also, what I love about clickable images is that you can upload your own image and actually turn a clickable image into an assessment as well. So let's do that. I'm going to upload my own image. And this one is a X-ray of a human hand. So I like to pretend that I know a lot about great scientific topics. So here we have an X-ray, and perhaps I'm teaching a medical class. And I want you all to identify the ulna on the X-ray. So that's my prompt. And I can just leave this clickable image as is and create it and present it. And that will just allow you all to click anywhere on the image to drop your pin. But if I want to add another level of interaction here, I can actually set a correct answer as well. So the first step is just to click anywhere on the image, and that will create this response box or region. And you can then drag and drop the corners to set the region. So I believe this is the ulna. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I did do a bunch of searching to make sure I'm correct here. So that could be our first region, and it could be the only one, or we can set some more. So let's do an option for the incorrect answer here. And we can always name these regions. So I'll call this the ulna, and this is the radius. Again, if I'm terribly wrong, please let me know in the chat. But you can set these as is, and this will just help with reporting later on. And I will cover reporting as well, but that will just help you group all of the different pins that have been dropped into their specific region. So you'll know at a glance, 10 people said ulna and 2 people said radius. You'll just know right away. And then you can also set more regions, of course. And then you can also set them correct. So let's set the ulna as the correct answer here. And let's add one more activity, and then we will definitely be participating in these. So in this case, you all know the correct answer, so there won't be too much mystery, but you'll see what the student sees in just a minute here. One more activity, and we might come back to Q&A, which was tied with multiple choice. And for the third activity, this one was the competition, which was an early winner, and then I think Clickable Image overtook it. But a competition, as I mentioned, is a series of questions. So just like a survey, it's not just one question standing alone. It is a series of multiple choice questions with correctness required. And we add a lot of elements to make it exciting, such as timers. We have leaderboards after each question, and then we also have the final leaderboard with confetti. So just to show you again, there won't be too much wonder on what's the right answer because I'll have to reveal it as I'm creating this. But this is just a demo, and you can definitely try out a competition of your own, either by copying some of the ones on our blog. We have pre-built competitions you can use. This one is actually from our blog. We also have the Getting Started webinar where you can participate in a live competition and actually win a prize as well. So if you wanted to see a competition without knowing all of the answers in advance, those are just some ideas that you can use. So my first question of the competition is, which wonder of the world took around 20 years to build? And this is the original version. I couldn't believe this. I had to double check, but it is the right answer. And maybe while I'm typing out these responses, you can guess what you think it is. And then I will reveal them when I actually have to click on the check mark. So everyone definitely take your guesses. And now for the reveal, it was the Great Wall of China. And then I'll add one more question so you can see the different leaderboards. Let's add this one, also known as the Rose City. This marble was built from pink sandstone. And what is this marble called? Is it in Jordan? Is it the Taj Mahal? We have a place in Mexico, and we also have the Great Wall of China here. And the right answer is Petra, Jordan. So that's all I need to do to create my competition. To add some more excitement, I can add images next to the question titles or as the response options if you wanted to take that more visual route. But this looks good to me. So I'm just going to click add another activity, and that has created my activity within my folder. So now if I exit the activity creator, we see our 3 beautiful new activities ready to go. And from here, I'm happy with the order. This all looks good to me. If you are presenting from the web, then the order of your activities probably matters to you. You want to make sure that when you advance to the next one, it's the one that you expect it to be. And in that case, we have the order column. Once that's selected in ascending mode, oops, sorry, zoomed in there. You can use these controls to change the order of your activities. So that's just something to note if you wanted to plan the order and you're presenting from the web, then this column helps you do that. So let's start off, move this back into fourth place, and let's present our multiple choice question. How would you describe your role in Pull Everywhere? So all I need to do in order to present this from my browser is click full screen. Once I do that, it's ready to collect responses. So all of you who are on pollev.com/webinar right now can see this activity and can respond. So we have a lot of people overseeing the account, and that's really good to know. I hope today's session kind of gives you an idea of how faculty and other presenters, maybe on the administrative side as well, how they're using Poll Everywhere and how they can use it. Now it looks like we have mostly individual presenters, which is awesome as well. And again, hopefully you can see gain some inspiration from today's examples. And we also have some of us who are creating activities for other presenters, which is also great to see. And I will be covering how to use teams and shared activities and reporting to teach not just on your own, but as a group. So with a activity like this, what I can do, with any activity actually, I can adjust the visual settings. And this is one of my favorite things to do. For example, I love turning multiple choice bar charts into donut charts because I love donuts. I love different colors. And I think that it just really spices up your presentation and brings it to life. So on the enterprise or university-wide level plan, you can actually adjust any part of these visual settings. So you can completely change how this activity looks, everything from the font to the color scheme to the background to all of the instructions. They are all customizable. So this is our lovely donut chart based on your responses. And I like to see that pretty even split. This is really interesting. Now I just clicked on my arrow key, which took me to the next activity based on that order that we set earlier. And this is our Xray question. So some options here for you. You can choose to hide the responses and the regions as well. So if you want to build the suspense and let everyone take their guesses, or hopefully they just know the answer right away, you can give them some time to do that. You can even set a timer down here in the bottom left-hand corner. And once the timer runs out, the activity automatically locks. So I'm going to give it just a little bit more time. And what I'm actually going to do is show the total results on the chart so that I can see how many are coming in. So it looks like we got 5 answers so far. I'll wait a little bit longer to make sure everyone has had a chance to respond. Great. So we're up to 9 now. I think that's a good amount. And so I'm going to click lock, and this will lock the activity, which means that further responses are prevented from coming in. So you can't add any new responses here. But what I can do is show these responses first and discuss them, maybe again, build the suspense a little bit more. And then I can show the regions, and that will automatically kind of change what the pins look like. So the ones that are correct have a little green check mark, whereas the ones that are wrong have an X. And you can customize the colors of these as well. It's just, this is the default. But this is what a clickable image with correctness looks like. You, of course, do not have to add these regions, but I think it's a really great way to, instead of just presenting an image on a slide, you can actually get everyone's thoughts on it, get their guesses. Maybe you haven't even covered this topic yet, but this will give you just a pulse check on what people think the answer is before you reveal it. And yes, you can give points for a clickable image question. So if it is correct, it will be reflected in the report, whereas incorrect will not, will also be reflected. They won't get the point for it. So this was exactly like a multiple choice question. And our next activity takes us to our competition. And this looks a little bit different just because, again, we have multiple questions within one competition. So here we can edit the title, we can edit each question, we can change their order by clicking on these arrow buttons. We can add more questions and adjust the settings. But once everything looks good, we can just press play. So let me refresh really quickly and then go ahead and press play. So this is our competition. The first slide is just the question itself with none of the response options. Next, we have the question, the response options, and our timer based on the settings. And this gives everyone a chance to respond. So 5 more seconds here. And again, I definitely recommend trying competitions in a variety of ways. So you can definitely put this after you've covered a topic as a summary activity, and you can assign points again because there is correctness. There we go. We can reveal the correct answer now. Or another way to use a competition is just to break the ice. So it doesn't have to be related to the topic that you're covering that class. It can just be about something fun. And I think that especially at the start of a term, that's a really great way to just set the tone and get to know everyone's personalities a bit more. So after each question, we have our leaderboard. So it looks like Lee is in the lead. And then one more question in this competition. Let's see if you all get or remember the answer from when I created it a few minutes ago. Again, if you actually wanted to guess on something you might not know, you can definitely check out our blog or our other webinars, but this is mostly meant so you can try out the experience from both sides. And most of you got it. Nice. So 83%. And let's see our final leaderboard with the beautiful confetti here. So Ulrich, please correct me if I'm mispronouncing that, but congratulations, you have won our competition for today. So there we go. That has been the 3 activities I wanted to show you. And again, if you are curious about the Q&A, feel free to drop that in the Q&A box and I will definitely demo that for you as well. Perfect. One more question came in about clickable images. So how students can click when using a phone. So as we saw on polyev.com/webinar, the image comes up whenever you present that activity. And as the student or participant, you will see that exactly the same on your phone as you do on your desktop. But if you wanted to try it again, definitely let me know and I can present that activity again so you can pull it up on your phone as well. Great. Let's head over into PowerPoint. So I can show you how these activities look not only from your browser, but also within your slides. So I know with so many different tools comes kind of a challenge with balancing going between your slides and your content and your video conferencing software and whatever else you might be using. So the beauty of Pull Everywhere is that it integrates directly with your slides and you don't have to switch windows or tabs in order to go between a static slide and a activated fun activity. So the way it works is you will download the Pull Everywhere app And this will depend on your operating system. So if you're on a Mac, this will appear in as kind of a standalone app outside of your PowerPoint application. If you're on Windows, this will appear in your PowerPoint ribbon up here. But once you launch the app, it'll look the same. We have our folders. Again, just make sure you log in with your same account and you'll see all of your activities and folders. Just another note, this is dark mode, so there is a light mode as well if you prefer. So to find my activities, I can go straight into my webinar folder again, and I can just show you what it would look like to insert those same activities directly into my PowerPoint deck. So the first thing you can do is create new activities and new folders from here. So I do want to mention that if you prefer to work solely within PowerPoint or Keynote or Google Slides, Poll Everywhere does have these apps for all three where you can create activities as you go along. You don't have to create them in the browser and then insert them. But if you wanted to, all you need to do is select the check marks for the ones that you would like to insert. And let's just do the two to keep it simple. And now I'm just going to insert those slides. For a competition, you'll be inserting more slides because you have the first one, the second one, the one where you reveal the answer. So for every competition, you'll have a bunch of slides. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I was on slide 3 when I inserted them. So I inserted 2 more slides here. And all I need to do now is go into full screen mode. So I'm sharing my entire desktop screen. Once I enter full screen mode and advance to the next slide, it automatically starts gathering responses. So these are just a repeat of what we saw before because I inserted the same activities. But again, just like in the web version, you have the same controls on the side, you have the timer at the bottom. Everything is pretty much exactly the same, except this time I'm within my PowerPoint. And again, I'll just advance to the next slide, and this will show me my next activity. And you can pause here, gather some opinions, responses, and then move on to another static slide. So definitely let me know if you have any specific questions about the Poll Everywhere app. That was a very brief overview, but I do want to be cognizant of our time. So if you're wondering how to insert activities, I can definitely show you that again during our Q&A session. But for now, I will head back into our Poll Everywhere account. And I just wanted to mention that activities can also be used asynchronously. So you don't have to be in the same meeting in order to gather responses. And the way you can do that is by clicking on the actions drop down next to each activity and clicking copy response link. These response links go directly to that activity. You don't have to present them. You can just copy that link, attach it to an email, put it in your LMS kind of forum, and students can respond at any time at their own pace. So this is a great way to, again, provide that flexibility and to be open to maybe different time zones or just availability or circumstances that come up in these times. So that is something that I definitely want to share, and I hope that you will all leverage. For example, for me, going back again into my lovely folder here, I have a webinar survey that I'll be sending out after today's session. And with that, I have my questions in the survey. This looks similar to a competition, but what I can do is then copy this response link, and this is the link that I will be sending in the email. So once you receive that, definitely make sure to take the survey, not only to try out the survey experience, but also to really give me your feedback. I will be reviewing this and improving for the next webinar. All right, so we've talked a lot about creating and sharing and presenting activities. Now I wanted to cover a little bit more about kind of the administrative side of things and what happens before and after your class. So before, I definitely recommend registering your students in advance. And you can do this in a variety of ways. The first thing you want to do is head to your participants tab. And then when you add participants, if you're on a university-wide account, you can actually connect to your learning management system. And we integrate with Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Sakai, and Brightspace. So what that allows you to do is import your roster and then export your grade books back into your LMS so that you can assign credit for the class through your Pull Everywhere activities. So definitely recommend using the Connect to LMS feature. And we are actually currently working on improvements to the learning management system flow for faculty members. So definitely stay tuned. There will be a lot of content and courses to walk you through all of those updates. Another way you can do it is by importing via CSV if you prefer. But either way, you'll have this list of students that are registered with your account. You can then assign them to different classes by clicking on the appropriate circles. And then you can know that they are there, they're registered, and that they will be receiving credit. You'll be able to identify them later on. The second step after you've registered them is to restrict your activities to registered participants only. So heading into account admin down here, the gear icon, if you go to account settings and participant settings, I would recommend setting the default to restrict to registered participants only, which will ensure that only those who have been imported or registered in advance can respond. So they're the only ones who have access to your activities. This really helps consolidate and streamline everything again with so many different ways to join class. You might not even see these students in person. So this will just ensure that no matter where they're joining from, they are kind of verified. And once you've restricted, you can still then set your activities to anonymous if you don't want to identify their answers to that specific activity. So maybe you want to have a more open, honest conversation through maybe a Q&A activity. You can set that specific activity to anonymous. We won't gather any identifying information and you won't see who responded in what way, but you'll still know that whoever did respond was one of your students. We don't know exactly who it is, but because it's restricted, you'll know that only your students can even access that activity. So you'll just have peace of mind and know that everyone there should be there. So that's a little bit about the pre-registration side of things. And then after your class, what you can then do is run a report. And with reporting, you can see all of the responses and then export them to your LMS. And I did also want to mention, I know some of you are collaborating within Pull Everywhere. So if you have teams and teammates, you can run reports on shared activities as well. So for example, heading back into my webinar folder, I have several teams on this account. This is more of a company account, so I have some company teams here, but let's say someone in the IT department would like to use these same activities in their own trainings. So now they can access these same activities from their Shared With Me tab and collect responses as if they were their own. So they are presenting from their own account, but they're gathering responses to the same activities. as the owner of these activities, if I make any changes, they will automatically be reflected for everyone on my team. And then the key is that when I run my report, so I won't include the survey because it has no responses yet, but I'm going to generate a report with these items. And I'll start off with executive summary, where you can just kind of see an overview of the whole presentation. It doesn't break it down by every participant, but let's start there. We can always change that. And there we go. There's our report. So I'm going to change the title. Today is the 10th back to school webinar. Nope. Webinar. Nope. Okay, there we go. Finally, we got there in the end. So this is a report, and because I've shared this with my team, they can actually also get responses to these questions, which means that I can then select who I want to include in this report. So in this case, I was the only one who gathered responses, but you can imagine this would be yourself, and you can have a group of TAs or other faculty members who are using the same activities in their own content. So you can then run the report across everyone or choose a specific presenter. And that way you can see not only how you did, but how your activities did and how they landed across different students. And then if you wanted to export this to your LMS, you're going to select the gradebook report. And that will change this to a list of participants. As we just saw that pop up, all of these participants are unregistered, so I can't identify them beyond their screen name. This is another really important reason to register your students so that you can then see exactly who they are and not just see unregistered or guest 526, for example. In my case, this is totally fine with me, but if this is a real classroom where there are actual points on the line, you would want to make sure that everyone is tied back to their student account. So we can see the list of names. We can see how they did on the 6 activities that we included. As we see, with some don't have correctness, so we can just see based on the legend whether they responded or not. And then we have correct, incorrect, or incorrect because of no response. At the bottom, we have some aggregate scores, average grades, and participation. And again, just like with any other report, we can also select which presenter we're talking about here. And then LMS export is what will bring all of these results back into your learning management system and allow you to assign points. So that's kind of the way it works, the comprehensive view of Poll Everywhere at the university-wide level. So that was definitely a lot to cover. And before we go into Q&A, I have a couple more items to share with you. So I saw some of you were wondering how clickable images work on your phones. This is just an example of one. So this will appear on your device, and you can either join Poll Everywhere from the pollev.com page within your mobile browser, or if you know you'll be using Poll Everywhere throughout the semester and school year, oh, sorry about that. You can also allow students to download the mobile apps for both iOS and Android, which will give them the opportunity to just log in right away and kind of join your session and respond to your activities. So definitely recommend checking out the apps. For both the slideware apps that I was showing, PowerPoint, Keynote, and Google Slides, and these mobile apps, head over to polleverywhere.com/app to learn more. And then here are just some more classroom tools. I think I've covered all of them today except for attendance and cheating, but there's a number of ways to use these same activities to achieve whatever you are looking for. So if you did want to take an attendance type of question, you can hide the response title. You can set the question to be something very specific that only people within the class would know. But these are just some ideas, beyond what I was showing today. And then in terms of new features, I mentioned the organization system, which is those new folders and navigation that we saw. We have presentation controls coming up. So rather than it being in the top right-hand corner, as we saw before, it will be a bar at the bottom of your activity, which will just streamline things and allow more screen space for the responses. And again, definitely look out for more information as that is released at the end of the month. And as I mentioned, we are also working to improve our LMS integration. So stay tuned as well. So here's just an overview of everything, the 4 steps that I covered today, not in this order, but hopefully you can see the whole process. And again, here are some more resources and support for you. So as a university-wide account, you have a customer success manager who can walk you through all of the different workflows that you're looking for and build kind of custom plans that you can use. We have a support center, support email, which should say support@polleverywhere.com. And we also have a team dedicated to answering your questions. And another perk of the university-wide plan is that you have access to detailed courses that cover a bunch of different topics related to Poll Everywhere. We just published our first course under Poll Everywhere for Educators, which is for administrators to actually set up those LMS integrations and allow faculty to use them. So there's a lot more coming, and definitely check out training.polleverywhere.com for walkthroughs and videos and more resources. All right, it's finally time for Q&A. I know we don't have too much time left, but I want to make sure that I answer any of your questions. So let's see if any have come in. So feel free to use the Zoom Q&A box so we can keep track of your questions here, and I will be answering them. So looks like we don't have any new ones right now. For the points on a clickable image, I think I've covered that, but let me know if you have any other questions about those. Is this only available through a university account? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this. So which features specifically are you interested in? The activities, the actual creation and presentation process is available on any account, including our slideware integrations. But things like teams and shared activities, those are, as well as the LMS import and export, those are covered on the university-wide plan. The Poll Everywhere activity. So the activities come with any plan, and you can learn more about the different plans which come with more features at polleverywhere.com/plans. So I previously tried to use Poll Everywhere, but the second time I tried to use it, it still used the previous quiz questions. How do you switch which assets of activities are active for a given account? So I'm not sure exactly where you were using it. If this was in slideware and you inserted those questions and presented them again, the way to update those is to delete those slides, just like any other PowerPoint slide, and insert the ones that you are going to be using next. If it was kind of populating the responses that you've already gotten, then I would recommend clearing those responses and then just activating the activity again, and it should have no responses. But I'm not exactly sure where you were trying to switch them. So if you could provide a little more detail, that would be helpful. Any other questions about Poll Everywhere? You were trying to switch them on the browser, but using PowerPoint. So if I'm understanding correctly, you had a PowerPoint like this, and you had your activity slides within them. So if you wanted to remove these slides and use a completely different set of activities, I would just delete this slide and delete this one, and then open up the Poll Everywhere app one more time and find the new activities that you would like to insert. So you can think of this just the same as PowerPoint slides. You select the ones that you want to insert, and then when you're done with them, you can delete them from your PowerPoint. That doesn't mean you're deleting them from your whole account. So even though I just deleted those slides, if I go back to my folder, I still have those activities. They're just not inserted into this specific slide deck. Awesome. It looks like there are no other questions, which hopefully means that they were kind of answered as they came up, which is definitely the goal. But if you do have any other follow-up questions, again, you have a customer success manager who can help you with those. We also have a support team available to take those questions. And before you reach out, I definitely recommend checking out training.polleverywhere.com, which covers a lot of what I showed today, pretty much all of it, in step-by-step or video form. All right, well, thanks for all of your questions. And before I let you go, I do want to share that we would love to stay connected beyond today's session, and especially as you navigate the upcoming school year. So if you have any ideas or best practices that you would like to share with other educators in our community, I definitely would love to see you all over on Twitter. You can use the hashtag PollEVEDU, or just tag us anywhere to share how you're doing. We love seeing those tweets. They're really awesome. So with that, thank you all so much for joining today. I hope it was helpful and gave you some kind of ideas to kickstart your fall class. All right, have a great rest of your day, everyone. We hope to see you at a future webinar.